Welcome back to Conservative American Predictions. Today we are going to be discussing the state of Wisconsin and how it's going to vote in 2024. Like many of its Rust Belt counterparts, it has both the presidential race happening, of course, but also an important Senate race. So, the incumbent Tammy Baldwin, she is running for re-election. She's not very popular, but she definitely isn't like very unpopular either. She's just kind of neutrally approved of in the state. And she does usually win by big margins, like in 2012 and 2018. However, in the past, it's usually been because of Obama being on the ballot, Wisconsin being more of a blue state, or just being an overall blue wave like 2018. So this year, it's none of those things, and Republicans are actually fielding a pretty strong candidate, businessman Eric Hovde, who is, running a pretty strong campaign, and I expect to do pretty well in the state. However, before we get to the Senate race, we're going to be discussing the presidential race. So, on the presidential map, as you can see, it's the only state not filled out, and that's just because I've already done a video about every other single state so far, or at least the battleground ones, the other six that are tilt or lean margins, and Wisconsin is the last one, and it's going to be one of the more interesting ones. Like many of the others, there is going to be a decent overall amount of people who are split ticketing. You're going to have a lot of Trump Baldwin voters. You might have a couple Harris Hovde voters. That would be an interesting group, I will say. But you're probably going to have a couple. And overall, it's just going to be very interesting to look at. And we're going to be discussing where I think the race stands, both, again, the presidential and Senate races. So on the presidential election, this is what the state, or this is what they say, what 538 says the race will look like, again, on the presidential level. So right now, Trump is favored nationally 53 out of 100 times. But then if you scroll down to the map, as you can see here, on Wisconsin, it is technically a battleground state, and Kamala Harris is favored 53 out of 100 times. So very, very narrow. However, Harris is actually in the lead. And this is probably because a lot of polls have had the race pretty skewed to the left overall. However, that's how it was in 2020 as well, one of the worst polling misses. But a 0.4% margin for Kamala Harris is technically not out of the question. It's just, leaning more towards Harris than I think the race is. So this is how I actually see the race going as of now. This is a 0.79% win for Donald Trump, slightly larger than how he won the state by in 2016. I'll actually pull that map up real quick. So this is how it voted in 2016. As you can see, a somewhat similar county map to how I see it going. Couple of differences. Door County is still a Democrat win, and a couple others are different. But overall, it's not a large change, I should say. So it's going to be somewhat similar to a 2016 map and a 2016 margin. However, there are going to be some places where it's closer to 2020. For example, you saw Trump do better in a lot of these western counties than he did in 2020. I mean, Grant County, this was a Trump plus 12.3% county. In 2020, it was a 9.5% county in 2016. So Trump did improve in a lot of these places, and he's going to improve again this year. And that's what brings his margin up, and that's what gives him the state. As you can see here, his largest areas of improvement are in the western, kind of the southwestern and western parts of the state, as well as the northeastern and just northern parts of the state in general. So he's doing very well there. Then Kamala is managing to gain some votes, not a whole lot, but in Milwaukee and its surrounding suburban areas like Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington counties. So overall, Harris improving in these suburban areas, and that's helping her keep Trump from winning by a lean margin. But then she's also improving in the Green Bay area, so this is beneficial to Kamala Harris, and this is again preventing Trump from winning by a lean margin, because if it wasn't for these shifts against him, he potentially could be. So overall, this is a very, positive map for Donald Trump. It's definitely good news, and it's going to help down ballot. It's going to help not only Eric Hovde, but it's also going to help people like Derek Van Orden, who are in closer congressional races. And on the Senate level, it's going to be pretty interesting to see if Hovde can run equal to Trump in some of these areas, if he improves from Biden's numbers as well, or if he goes down. But in my opinion, he is going to go down, as Tammy Baldwin is pretty well liked among the working class communities. And even though Baldwin is going to do worse than she has before, because Hovde is going to do much better, especially, kind of riding Trump's coattails, she's still going to perform pretty well. and that's what gives her the state by about 3.16%. As you can see, virtually every county shifts to the left except for a couple, those being Racine and Kenosha counties, which are shifting towards Trump as well. And, this limits Baldwin's victory. But, I mean, a 3 point margin still isn't the highest number out of, or at least for a Senate race out of Wisconsin for Democrat Tammy Baldwin. Again, in 2018, she won by a very large margin, about 11%. And I don't think she's going to get anywhere close to that this year. However, 3 points is still definitely a respectable number out of the state, especially now that it really is a swing state that could go either way on the presidential level. And where you see Baldwin doing the best compared to Biden's numbers, this isn't her compared to her 2018 numbers, this is compared to Biden's numbers. You see her doing very well in western Wisconsin and southwestern Wisconsin. These are areas Trump is improving. However, Hovde is still going to run decently far behind Trump, but he is going to do better than Trump in some of these areas. Or at least he's going to run basically equal to him in some of these areas. So there aren't really any areas that he does better than Trump in. However, he will run equal to Trump in some of these areas, or at least in the Milwaukee area. So other than that, he is decreasing basically everywhere. However, again, a 3 point margin out of this race right now is not horrible because on the Senate level, they still have it. They have it around the same margin. However, I believe they have Tammy Baldwin doing a little bit better than I do. So you come down to Wisconsin, you click on their Senate race. As you can see, Baldwin is favored 69 out of 100 times. And the popular vote margin, actually, they did shift it back down towards Eric Hovde, 2.6% for Tammy Baldwin. So actually a little less than my forecast. But, not a huge difference here. However, still definitely good news for Eric Hovde, both in the 538 prediction as well as mine, as he is coming within a striking distance of Tammy Baldwin. So if he keeps, the momentum going that he is seeing right now, if he keeps doing pretty strong in the polls, I mean, he was up in one, he was down in one by only 1% each, so definitely a close race. If he keeps this momentum going, I might shift it down a couple points, maybe even to a tilt margin. But overall, I think if Republicans want a 53rd seat after they flip Ohio and Montana, that is if they do flip Ohio, and they probably almost definitely will flip Montana, as well as hold Nebraska and Texas. If they want a 53rd seat, Wisconsin would be that state. However, again, as of now, I have it going lean Democrat. So I hope you did enjoy this video. Comment down below what your Wisconsin predictions are for the 2024 elections. So again, I'll see you guys next time.